Hey guys, it's Zach. Welcome back. I don't know if you guys can tell, but we had a little bit of a video upgrade this week. The previous weeks I've been kind of just shooting on my iPhone. This week we have a GoPro, so I think that's pretty cool. It's definitely been a lot easier for me to work with, and I hope that you guys enjoy the upgrade. I hope you guys can tell. But yeah, so this week's video is going to be all about Greek Tortoise Care. Last week, about a week ago, I got 3 Greek tortoises at the Saratoga Reptile Expo, and those guys have been doing really good. And I thought that this week we could do a video about, I guess, just me sharing my knowledge and the information that I've learned during all the research that I did before I got these guys. I know that there's a lot of stuff that I still don't know about them, so if you guys notice anything that I'm leaving out, or if you maybe disagree or found something to be a little bit different while you were caring for your Greek tortoises, definitely drop a comment. I'm really passionate about learning and sharing the information that I've learned, so as long as you do it nicely, I'm definitely down to learn from you guys as well. So yeah, let's get started. Alright guys, so this is my little Greek tortoise, my male. His name is Aesop. I don't know if you can see his face, but he is absolutely adorable. He's got a little calcium on his underside from eating earlier. So like I said, this is my male. He's a little bit larger than the females, which actually is, I think, not the usual. Usually the females are a little bit larger than the males. I have a little pillowcase here for him because he does kind of like to pee on me, I've noticed, when I pick him up. So, yeah, a little information about this guy, or I guess a little thing that I've noticed, is that he has a little bit of a stuffy nose, and I kind of noticed it like the day after I got him. I have been in contact with the breeder that I got him from, and right now I'm kind of just monitoring it. It's clear discharge, so I guess that could possibly just be something like a cold, or that he's just stressed from moving homes. So I've definitely been monitoring it, and if it changes or if it seems to really be bugging him, I'll definitely bring him to the vet, because right now he's still eating, he's moving around, he seems to be totally alert and normal acting. He's acting just like the other tortoises, so not super concerned yet, but if it lingers or if it's causing other issues, then I'll definitely get that checked out. But anyway, I guess just more about some Greek tortoises in general. They get to be like 5 to 8 inches is what I've read. This guy's pretty big, I think. He's a little bit getting kind of towards that maximum size. I think that they live for super long. I think in captivity like 100 years or more. In the wild, I think it's much less, like 20 years, and that's because they do face a lot of natural predators in the wild. But as long as they're kept healthily, they can outlive us, that's for sure. So this guy's habitat, Greek tortoise habitat, they are actually grassland tortoises. So when we talk about, oh, see, told you guys, totally just peed all over. And that pillowcase helped a little bit, but it's definitely all over my jeans too. But that's okay. I knew it was gonna happen. So anyway, there are 2 major categories, I guess, of tortoises. There are the grassland tortoises and the forest-dwelling tortoises. And they both, any tortoise that's from the grassland has very similar care. Any tortoise that's from the forest has pretty similar care. So this guy's a grassland tortoise. He's a Greek tortoise, so he's from Southern Europe, Italy, Greece, Spain, those countries, and they do North Africa too, I believe. They do experience some colder weather, so they are a little bit better if you guys have colder weather in your area. I keep these guys inside in a Zoo-Med tortoise box, but it does get cold still in my house a little bit. I do live in upstate New York, so I thought that these guys would be a good choice because of that. They mostly, it's mostly dry where they live, but they do still need water. That's very important. It's a very common myth that these guys don't need any water because they live in drier areas. But of course, any animal needs water to live. They don't need so much humidity in their environment, which is true, but they do still need a dish of water to be able to drink from. That kind of ties into their diet. Their habitat ties into their diet because from where they're from is the grassland, so what they're going to be eating a lot of is grass and weeds, not too much protein at all, not any like animals or bugs or anything like that, and also not a ton of fruit. Fruit is okay to feed, I think, in like very small amounts and moderation. They would experience fruit in their natural environments, you know, a couple times a year when the fruit trees or whatever are ripe, and they would have access to fruit, just not very regularly at all. So a lot of fruit can cause issues like diarrhea and things like that. Otherwise, these guys do like to just eat hay, leafy green vegetables. I try to stay away from baby vegetables, like not vegetables, but like baby spring mix and things like that, because it doesn't have a lot of fiber. Try to go for like adult vegetables, like dandelion greens, collard greens. I've been feeding some endive and some escarole as well. Shredded yellow squash, shredded carrot can be good too. Those have a little bit more sugar though, so not too much of those. So yeah, I think that's good for their diet. Another really common issue with tortoises in general is metabolic bone disease. And so there's a very strong relationship between the sun that these guys get and their diet. They need a lot of calcium in their diet, and in order to be able to absorb that calcium, they need vitamin D3, which they get from the sun. So if they don't have the correct lighting, or if they don't have the correct diet, or if they are just at a genetic predisposition, these guys can have what's called metabolic bone disease. And you will know that because their scutes, which are these sections of their shell, of their carapace here, they'll be like pointed up, and they almost look like little pyramids. This guy has a very smooth shell and no pyramiding really at all. So obviously he was kept in a good environment. So any combination of poor lighting, poor diet, genetics, they can cause pyramiding, and it's really not good. You know, overall, these tortoises can live for a long time with metabolic bone disease, but overall, not very good for them. So make sure you get that calcium in their diet. Make sure that they are having the right light, which is a good basking light. You want their basking spot to be like 95 to 100 degrees, and a really good UVB light. One that is for this species, one that is designed for a desert species, because they are from the grassland. Their sunlight that they get isn't filtered through the tree canopies, so they do need a little bit more of an intense UVB light. But as long as you meet those requirements, they should be good to go. You won't see any pyramiding, hopefully, as long as you follow those rules. Another thing that I wanted to talk about with these guys is that they, in my experience, I have 3, so I think it's a little bit better to keep them with a small group. I can't imagine really, you know, not being able to see any of my kind throughout my life. So a lot of people will tell you that they're solitary, they don't need a friend, they don't need other tortoises, and they'll do just fine by themselves. And that might be true, but I think personally I wouldn't want to just live life without being exposed to other people. So I think it's good. It can cause problems if you have more than one male together, because they can definitely cause fighting, especially in like breeding season, you know. So I would recommend one male to a few females. I think that probably would work a little bit better, and that's what I have, so no problem so far. Yeah, let's see. Eventually, I'll talk about breeding these guys with you. That is obviously something that I have not done yet. I've only had these guys for about a week, and I think they're a little bit too young to be doing that. Hopefully one day I'll be able to breed these guys, and we can do a whole nother video on that topic. But until then, I think it's just kind of a really big topic to get into in this video. So here's a little bit of tortoise anatomy for you guys. So obviously head, legs. On the legs and the head, you can see that there are scales. These little spurs here are the tortoise's scales, and not to be confused with the scutes. So the top part of the shell is called the carapace. The bottom part of the shell on their stomach is called the plastron. Okay, and each of these sections of the carapace are called scutes. So they're actually pieces of bone in the center that are covered with keratin. It's the same material that makes up our nails and our hair. And the keratin, you can see there's some rings, kind of like growth rings. and that is how the keratin kind of extends out and it causes the tortoise's shell to grow. So the scutes that are running down the center here are the vertebral scutes, and those are actually fused with the tortoise's vertebra. So they are actually part of the tortoise's spinal column. The scutes here, I believe, are the costal scutes, and the ones on the outside ring, are the marginal scutes. So yeah, I think that's kind of just interesting. The tortoise's shell is actually very sensitive, not just to, you know, high pressure feelings. They can feel soft, you know, soft pressure and light touch through their shell as well. So a lot of people think that, you know, you can, I mean, I've seen people who have drilled through their shell for medical purposes, and they can feel that. You know, their shell isn't just a hard piece of rock or something like that that's attached to their body. It actually is, you know, part of them, and they can totally feel everything through their shell. Which makes sense because, you know, as they're basking, they have to be able to feel how warm the sun is that they're sitting under, or else they'll, you know, overheat. So yeah, it's kind of just a little tortoise anatomy lesson. I think that stuff's kind of cool. So another thing is that Greek tortoises don't really love, I think tortoises in general don't really love to be handled a ton. I try not to pick these guys up, only very rarely. I do like to assess them and kind of check them out and make sure that they're healthy and looking good. So once in a while is okay, and I don't think it causes any problems to handle them once in a while. I think they do like a little bit of a head scratch once in a while too. But kind of stresses them out if you're holding them all the time. They're not pets that, you know, if you have small children that want to really interact and be holding them all the time and cuddling them, not really the right pet for them. They're super cute to look at and watch, and I find them so interesting. But yeah, as far as holding them and all the time, they're just not super cuddly, and it really is just not something that they enjoy. So I think that's a pretty important point as well. Alright guys, that's it for this video. I hope you learned something, and I hope that there are things that you guys can teach me. So like I said, leave a comment down below if there's anything that you think I should know, or anything that I missed when I was talking about these guys during the video. So we'll say goodbye to you. Say goodbye, Aesop. Alright, I'm gonna put this guy back in his enclosure. I'll see you guys next week.